Okay, so hanging out with my friend Rick Beato, and we were talking about something that happened yesterday.
Yeah.
So our friend Joe Bonamassa announced that he's leaving social media, and as of the time we're recording this, that seems to be true. So this comes from a Guitar World article. It says Joe Bonamassa quits social media and, quote, "I fear I'm going to be provoked into saying something I might regret." The blues ace expressed remorse about allowing, quote, "a few clowns to cause him to go on stage angry" in a now deleted Instagram post. And you can read the article for more details, but essentially someone got on a post that Joe had made on Instagram and started making some really rude comments about his physical appearance.
He's just getting ready to go on stage.
Yeah. Which is not a time that you want to be in a negative headspace.
Probably don't want to be reading comments before you go on stage.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm guilty of it. I've done it before gigs.
It's interesting. On my channel, one time I had a live stream. It was pretty funny, actually. Somebody said, "Rick, the overhead light, you need to lose 20 pounds or something. The overhead light is not doing you any favors." He was right.
Yeah, I've had comments about my weight recently. I crashed my bike a little over a year ago, stopped riding my bike, and I've put on a few pounds. And it started coming on in the comments of people telling me, "Oh, you need to eat better. You need to lose weight. You look fat. Oh, now that I see you without a guitar in front of you, I didn't realize how fat you were." You know, really?
I usually send those comments to Rick when I'm reading.
This brings up the conversation of criticism versus hate. I think criticism in many cases is and can be a good thing, even if it's not meant in good nature. I can speak from my own personal experience in doing YouTube for almost 5 years now. I received a lot of criticism. A lot of it, quite frankly, has been warranted, and it's stuff that has caused me to grow and get better, even though in the moment, a lot of the critical comments or the critical responses I would get hurt. I mean, it hurts to be criticized, especially for your work and something that you put a lot of effort and time into, or your perspective or your point of view. But oftentimes, when your work is being criticized, there is an element of truth there, and there can be a point of growth and a learning experience.
One of the things that for me that I've actually had to engage more in the comments recently because of all the bots that have been on my channel.
Oh, yeah.
And on everyone's channel.
It's out of control.
But I stopped engaging with the comments years ago because Rhett and Aaron would say, "You can't say that stuff," because I used to troll people, and I'd say, "Well, I'm having fun," and you'd say, "Yeah, but you can't do that. You can't do that."
The thing that gets me and will cause me to respond or want to respond is when someone tries to make a character judgment about who I am or my personality or my motives based off of what they saw in a video. I still have to catch myself, or Tilly will tell me, "No, you can't say that. Don't do that. Just stop. Don't respond. Just ignore it." It's hard, man. It's really, really difficult, but it's par for the course with what we do. I mean, if you're going to step out and put yourself online and put your work and your opinions and your point of view online, you're going to receive this kind of stuff.
I worry about friends of mine that want to get into YouTube. I know from experience that the comment section can really be pretty treacherous sometimes, depending on what the topics you're talking about. And I just feel for people that aren't used to doing that, or that don't have a thick skin to deal with it, because I know some professional musicians, well-known musicians, that are off social media because of it, because they can't take it.
Joe is a perfect example. And to be honest, I don't blame Joe for taking this stance. I don't think he made the wrong choice. I think when that kind of thing happens, it can have a negative impact on not just the creator, but the community overall. I think someone like Joe Bonamassa deciding to step away from social media is a net negative for our community.
I agree.
Because Joe is a great educator. I've learned a ton from watching Joe Bonamassa. I don't always agree with him. I don't always think he's right, but I think overall, his presence and his opinion is a net positive for the guitar community online.
This is interesting because Instagram is different than YouTube, and this is particularly an Instagram comment. I mean, my personal thing is that when people say those things, they're just projecting things about themselves that they don't like. And I feel bad for them in that, well, this is really about them.
I think a lot of times people leave these comments thinking that, oh, they'll never see this, or, there's this sort of separation and they're just voicing a frustration. But sometimes you read it and it hits you at the wrong place at the wrong time.
I imagine the men's bathroom line at Rick's shows rivaled only by a Rush concert.
That's pretty funny. So later in the article, it quotes Joe from the Instagram post. He said, "This isn't what I signed up for 8 years ago. Social media has become such a distraction for me. This place feels like it has the maturity of a high school, and I fear I'm going to be provoked one day into saying something I might regret. So I'm leaving this wonderful place to the influencers and good looking. Enjoy it before it destroys your soul. I will see you in real life somewhere down the road and in Riverside tonight." And he posts on this page, "Going forward will not be from me. Thanks for the 8 years." So, I mean, it sounds like for Joe in particular that this is not,
a positive thing.
It's not a positive thing, and it sounds like this has probably been going on for some time, and this comment was somewhat the straw that broke the camel's back. I don't know, but that's what it seems like.
One of the things that I do when I interview somebody, that's when I actually look at the comments, because I don't want the person that I've interviewed, if they're looking at it, to see some, outrageous comments about them, terrible comments about them. And I'll just block the people when they do that and stuff. And
I did a similar thing with Shane, the contractor and builder who came in to help out with the studio build. Before we ever agreed to do the job together, I told him, I said, "Look, I'm going to make videos about this. You're going to be on the YouTube channel. Are you okay with that?" He said, "Yes." "Is your crew okay with that?" They all said yes. And I said, "Look, someone is going to get on there and armchair quarterback and try and pick apart what we did and tell us that we're idiots for doing this way, and that, anyone who knew what they were doing would do something completely differently than how we do it." And you have to be prepared for it, and also realize that they don't have the full picture, because if I can't show every single reason behind the decisions that we made for every single thing. And so it's so easy for someone to sit back behind a keyboard with some random username and say that, "Oh, well, if you knew what you were doing, you would have done it this way," or none of that's true. You're just seeing a small slice of what we're working on in a narrative fashion. I'm trying to create a story and trying to create an arc that is interesting. And so when we put the video up, sure enough, a handful of those comments came down and we talked about it. And Shane was super positive about it, and he was in a really good place. But it can be a lot, especially for someone that's not used to
that's the thing.
What we do. I mean, we deal with this stuff every day.
Yeah.
But for someone just jumping into it, it can be really, really overwhelming.
You just realize that people can say anything, and that's. But I'll say this: the YouTube is the best platform.
Mm-hmm.
No question about it. It's the best platform. People are. I don't even consider it a social media platform.
How long, though, for you do you think it took you to get to the point where you weren't reading all the comments and you can sort of separate yourself from all that stuff?
Well, a lot of it was early on in my channel when Aaron was working here, and he told me, "Don't respond to the comments like that. Just don't respond." And it just makes me look bad if I do that, if I bust people's chops, because I would write sarcastic responses and everything, because that's how I am. I'm a sarcastic Italian.
Yeah, you're the little brother, instigator,
right?
Sarcastic Italian, which in a personal setting is just part of like your interaction with your friends. But to take that to a public forum like a comments section, it's not good.
It's not appropriate, and then you miss the new. It's kind of like texting. When you text people, you can't. Sometimes you lose the context of things.
It took me, again, I've been doing this almost 5 years. It probably took me 3.5 years, I'd say, to get to the point where, like you, I put up a video, I read the first few comments to make sure everything's good, nothing is really happening.
You don't have a dropout in the video or something like that. That's usually when you find these things out, if something happened in the upload.
Right. And then after that, I have to check out, because I was the person for a long time that would read all the comments and read all the stuff. It had a really negative impact on my mental health and my state of mind for a long time.
Do you think that because you did a lot of gear demos and gear reviews, and people like to repeat things that they've read other places, and they'll disagree with you, or they'll say things that, oh, you don't know what you're talking about on this, it's really that, or whatever, that there are certain types of videos that are more prone to those types of comments?
Yeah. People come out of the woodwork and are loaded for bear because with that in particular, people's identity is wrapped up in the gear that they buy and what they play. Because we spend a lot of money on this stuff. You go buy a guitar, you might have worked 3, 6, 9 months to save up to go buy that guitar.
That's right.
And it's hard not to wrap part of your identity up into what type of guitar you play, or the type of music that you're into, or your favorite players, or whether or not you think wood affects the tone of an electric guitar or not. It's so easy to let it. I've done it. It's so easy to get wrapped up, but that's where I think a lot of this stuff comes from. And I think it also comes a lot from forum culture. Like this type of interaction back and forth where you just have a random username and you can kind of say whatever you want without any consequence bleeds over into videos that are about gear and that kind of stuff.
I used to get really worked up. This was long before YouTube. I'd read a lot of gear, pro audio gear forums. They were the worst, honestly. I never read guitar forums ever, but pro audio gear forums were always, every 100 posts you could find something of use. Most people just are repeaters, where they'll just repeat things that they've read other places. And they've never owned the gear. Reading those things, just made me not want to read them because they were just it was kind of useless information. But it's interesting. I never heard that term, forum culture.
I mean, I don't know if
that's
it's
a good
term,
description.
but
No, it's a good description for it, though.
Yeah, I just think that whenever it comes to comments and interacting with one another or interacting with people online, there's this sort of pervasive idea that it's just like, you're shooting in the dark and nobody's ever going to read this stuff, and that's just not true. I mean, we do see this stuff, and in Joe's case, I mean, it's led to him taking a pretty major step, which is stepping off of social media altogether, which again, I don't think is the wrong choice for Joe. I think if that's what is going to relieve the stress and anxiety that comes with being on social media, and he's going to be happier and he's going to be better prepared for his gigs and in a better state of mind to make his music, then by all means, you have to do what's right for you and your family first. But like we've said, I think this is a loss for the guitar community, and it came from something that's not necessarily preventable. We're not going to stop people from trolling.
No.
So what do you think? Let us know in the comments section down below.
Follow Rhett on his channel here.
Yeah, and follow Rick on his channel. And you got a new video course out, by the way, right?
I do, yeah. Beginner guitar course. Yep. Check it out.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, man.